Welcome to the Devil's Digest Week 3 game preview. ASU is back in town after a tough loss against Oklahoma State last weekend. Eastern Michigan is in town to play the Sun Devils for an 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm Nick Borgia. Alongside me is our publisher, Hode Urbino. And Hode, a lot of people are saying this game's very similar to that first NAU game the Sun Devils had at the start of the year. Non-Power 5, non-conference opponent. And to set the record straight, ASU may have to put up some style points when it comes to this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree so, Nick, because when we talked about the season opener against NAU, it wasn't only that ASU won, like you already predicted that they did, but they really won, like you said, with style points, winning 40-3, and now playing Eastern Michigan. Better team than NAU, granted that, but nonetheless, ASU is still around a 19-point favorite, so I would say a win that would be less than 3 touchdowns would be somewhat concerning. And look, you rarely have an opponent, which is exactly what the doctor had ordered after such a disappointing loss against Oklahoma State the week before. I think it's a loss that still did offer probably more of a bag of mixed goods than you would expect a 17-point loss to offer. I think we definitely saw some encouraging signs both on offense and on defense. And it's not that you can draw the right conclusions and really implement them against a team like Eastern Michigan, because let's face it, I think if ASU is even playing at half a gear, so to speak, they shouldn't have a whole lot of trouble with a team like the Eagles. But I think it's important going into Pac-12 play next week, which maybe the players are overlooking Eastern Michigan ahead of that Utah home game week on Saturday. Maybe they're not, but nonetheless, you want to really go in with some confidence. So bottom line is, when you have the teams on your schedule that you're supposed to take care of decisively, you have to do that. ASU did that well against Northern Arizona a couple weeks ago. Now it's their turn to do it against Eastern Michigan on Saturday. And again, after a loss, the most important thing is really to get back on the winning track. And I think this game does offer a great opportunity for Arizona State to do exactly that.
And you mentioned some of those encouraging signs from last week, and we'll start with the offense, showing some spurts of explosive plays, especially in the second half with the passing game. But then when you look at a defense like Eastern Michigan, maybe not on the same playing field as Oklahoma State. So what does ASU need to do to capitalize on that?
Yeah, not even close, Nick. I mean, this is a team that on average, and I know the season's very young, so you have to be careful about week 2 overreactions like you have to be careful about week 1 overreactions. But when you're already yielding on average over 41 points, and most of them is coming via the air, then yes, I think that if ASU is looking to build upon that passing game that they had against Oklahoma State, I mean, maybe not eye-popping numbers, but you can look at the box scores going back to last year, and aside from the UCLA win in the Rose Bowl, I don't think this passing game looked as good since then. So definitely some encouraging signs. And I also like the fact, and you and I talked about that in Stillwater last Saturday, that ASU was maybe a little less stubborn with the running game. I mean, again, look at the box score. There were a lot of series where ASU ran the ball 3 times. It was absolutely exercising futility. Now, maybe Emory Jones and the wide receivers are feeling confident in the chemistry that they have developed. Maybe offensive coordinator Glenn Thomas is also feeling more confident in really unleashing this offense. I don't think there's any more of hiding the playbook, so to speak. A lot of it was revealed against Oklahoma State last weekend. So if you're the Sun Devils, you absolutely need to let it rip through the air, A, to boost your confidence, build on something that you had going in Stillwater in the second half, and B, you have a defense in Eastern Michigan that is offering you an ample opportunity to really get this passing game going. So I would expect ASU, I don't know if they're going to go to the air early and often, but in terms of putting better stats than they did against Oklahoma State, they absolutely have to. I expect them to do that on Saturday.
And let's flip the script, now looking at defense. ASU, again, had some bright points from last Saturday, but obviously allowing 34 points is never anything to be too proud of. But then if we look at Eastern Michigan, this is an offense that is consistently putting up a lot of points. Will the Sun Devils have trouble with that at all, you think?
Well, I think that Eastern Michigan is really getting a lot of its points and a lot of its yards, I should say, in the air rather than the ground. So I think it's going to be a really good test for the secondary. But more importantly, for the ASU front 7, especially the front 4, in terms of disrupting the quarterback, obviously not doing such a great job against Oklahoma State. But not to belabor the point, Nick, this opponent is nowhere close to the caliber of Oklahoma State. So if you want to really work on your blitzes, really hone on your pressure abilities, this is definitely the opponent that's going to offer you that opportunity. So sure, the secondary I think might be tested more than maybe they expected to be this Saturday, just because of the numbers that Eastern Michigan has put so far. But nonetheless, I think the secondary really has to make their own statement that even though they are facing an offense, G5 caliber and whatnot, but an offense that really has had some success in this short season, doing some damage in the air, really to make sure that they can really shut it down. But make no mistake about it, the secondary of ASU, in some respects, can only be good as the pressure they're going to get up front from their teammates. So it's imperative that the front seven, especially the front four, really disrupt the passing game for Eastern Michigan. If they can do that, I mean, I don't think Eastern Michigan can really do much on the ground against Arizona State, and that goes back to my earlier point. Not only do you want to win this game, you want to have a decisive victory. You definitely want to make a statement. You definitely want to make sure that you prove to everybody, including yourselves, that you thoroughly put that loss to Oklahoma State behind you. There's no lingering effect, and you're not overlooking an opponent just because they're light years away in terms of level of talent than the Cowboys last week. So this is definitely an offense that I think can challenge ASU in some respects, especially via the air. But I think that overall, if this defense was able to really shut out Oklahoma State in the first quarter and a half or so, I think it can definitely do that to Eastern Michigan and really just dominate them for 4 quarters.
All right, so we've heard all the reasoning as to why ASU is that 19 to 20 point favorite, but let's talk about Saturday. Just how is it going to go down?
Well, I see Arizona State really putting this game away early. Again, I think that for all the reasons that I mentioned, this is a matchup that does favor Arizona State for a lot of obvious reasons. And again, I think just the passing game really being given more emphasis this Saturday, or at least I hope that will be given more emphasis this Saturday, really does set you up to put more points on the board. I don't know if ASU is going to be at a point where maybe we're going to have to let the foot off the gas pedal a little, just because Herm Edwards says that he's not into embarrassing opponents or anything like that. So I don't know if we're going to see a significant amount of points scored, more than it was against the 40 points against NAU. And don't forget, it really could have been 54 points if it weren't 2 pick sixes that were called back by Arizona State penalties. I think it's important also, speaking of penalties, for the Sun Devils to have a clean game. Again, when you talk about style points, it's not just winning more than 3-4 touchdowns, but just really keeping the game clean when it comes to infractions and just mishaps, turnovers in general. So I think Arizona State is really going to have their way on Saturday. Shouldn't be any surprise whatsoever. I'm expecting a score of 41-17 in favor of the Sun Devils. 41-17.
Alrighty, thank you, Hode, for all your pregame, in-game, and post-game coverage. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Also at Devils Digest on Twitter for all those game day updates. But in the meantime, I've been Nick Border, that's Hode Urbino, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in.